Hey folks, this is Kalani. We have a massive amount of information to go through this week. We have an official release date for patch 10.0.7, and that's coming even sooner than expected, but the big news is that patch 10.1 is already well into development, and we have our first look at what that patch is going to include. We have a lot of info to go through, the brand new huge zone, new factions, a completely new game-wide gear upgrading system, and so much more, but the real kicker, we don't even have to wait to see this stuff in action because 10.1 is already on the PTR before patch 10.0.7 even releases. We have a new roadmap to check out too, so we can see where we are, what we can expect to see soon, and how plans have changed since the start of the year. There is a lot to talk about, so let's see when patch 10.07 is releasing and how patch 10.1 is shaping up so far. Before we jump in, be sure to hit up that like button and subscribe so you never miss another video. Let's start with the content coming our way first, patch 10.07. We now have a confirmed release date. The patch will go live on March 21st, which is 1 week earlier than my earliest expectations, so they're firing this content out at this rate. That's going to include the new zone and content, the new gearing up methods, the scarer vaults, all that good stuff, and overall it looks to be a fun, smaller patch. But the real meat of this expansion is going to come through with those major patches, and we have a lot to talk about relating to our first major patch of Dragonflight, patch 10.1. We actually have an updated roadmap to look over as well, which is really cool and exciting, so let's look at that first. I love that we had a roadmap to begin with, but the fact that it's being updated as we move along is also fantastic, because this whole process will be at least somewhat flexible, right? We'll have the big stuff nailed down, but some aspects might change, especially the timing. But here's the updated roadmap for 2023. We get more details about what's coming in 10.07, as well as that release date of March 21st. We can see the various content pieces for 10.07 have been included and are more specific, but Season 2 and patch 10.1 is way more interesting to me right now. We've got some more info like the new zone's name, the new raid's name, as well as a few other pieces of info like Firerack Assaults being a new feature, a new faction with a new renown track, a new dragon riding drake, and a few other things. That might not seem like a lot of info, but we can actually dig into patch 10.1 a bit more. We were given an early preview of 10.1's expected content, and there's a lot of great info floating around right now from various interviews too, so let's break this down further. The new zone is going to be underneath the Dragon Isles. We'll be delving down into the Zaralek Caverns, and the way in which we get there is actually super cool. I guess the Primal Incarnates did a bit of digging and created this massive tunnel that goes straight down into the zone. So no loading screens, no boats or zeppelins or portals, we can just dragon ride straight down into the new zone, and yes, dragon riding is enabled right from the get-go with all our talents in play, so we don't have to earn that over again, which is very nice indeed. We have a few different areas and environments to explore. We first arrive in these glorious green crystal caverns which make up most of the southeast side of the zone. Towards the west we have lava pools and fiery areas, and there's also a strong Jaredin presence here. They look to be protecting something rather important, so I'm sure we've found out what this entire area is about. To the north we have even more fire and another black dragon citadel that looks very much like the obsidian citadel from above ground. That's also where we're going to find the new raid entrance, and then right in the middle of the zone we have the sulfur pools where all of Neltharion's toxic runoff ended up, along with all of his failed experiments, so that's a lovely little area of very nasty things. The zone is pretty big, all things considered. Apparently it's larger than Zereth Mortis from Shadowlands, if that helps put things into perspective, and it looks like we'll have plenty of world quests, bonus objectives, rares, and treasures to keep us busy. There are also new races to meet and befriend with a brand new renown track. That's not in the game just yet, but we'll get that soon, I'm sure. There is a new minigame coming where we take these little mole people cave digging, and of course we'll have plenty of story quests to guide us through the zone and what the primalists are after. This patch is also going to bring us a new raid to plunder, Aberrus, the Shadowed Crucible. This one could be really interesting because it's Neltharion's abandoned research facility or laboratory. We all know how much of a mad scientist Neltharion was, so I expect we'll see all manner of horrors in there. Apparently there's something the Primalists are after as well, so we'll need to beat them to the punch, and the rebellious Sund and Flame Drakthea are also vying for control over Neltharion's legacy, so it's going to be a real party. The raid is going to have 9 bosses, which I think is a good number, and pretty much every Neltharion or Black Dragon themed raid has been awesome, so here's hoping this one continues the trend. As for raid timing and scheduling, we do have confirmation that all raid difficulties will open up at the same time, just like they did for Dragonflight Season 1. Season 2 will also kick off 1 week after patch 10.1 goes live, so we'll have 1 week in the new patch to get ready for everything Season 2 will have to offer. We also have our very first look at the new class tier sets coming with the new raid. This is an early look, so obviously everything is still subject to change, and we only have a preview for one colour or tint for the set, but we do have some normal, some heroic, and even some mythic variations to check out here, but keep in mind that spell effects especially will probably change between the difficulties. Some of these tier sets definitely look a lot flashier when compared to the others. I can't help but get very excited for the druid set and the priest set here. That priest set looks especially awesome in my opinion, but I want to know what you think about these class sets. Does your class look as cool as you had hoped? Are there any class tier sets here that you think look way better than the others? Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Now, another huge change coming with 10.1 is the new Mythic Plus dungeon pool. As we head into Season 2, we'll say goodbye to every dungeon we've been playing in Mythic Plus Keystone so far this expansion, and they will be replaced with an entirely new set for us to figure out. So we will get the other 4 Dragonflight dungeons, Brackenhide Hollow, Halls of Infusion, Uldaman Legacy of Tyr, and Neltharis, but then we will also see 4 older dungeons join them. This time we'll get Freehold and the Underrot from Battle for Azeroth, the Vortex Pinnacle from way back in Cataclysm, as well as Neltharion's Lair from Legion. That last one seems quite fitting for the overall theme of the patch. Another change coming for Mythic Plus Dungeons is the fact that during Season 2 we actually will not see a new seasonal affix. So Thundering will disappear, but nothing will take its place. We actually won't even see a random affix thrown in at key level 10, which means no additional affixes will appear past a level 7 key in Season 2. In addition to that, the affixes that can currently appear at level 7 are all getting looked at, and we can expect something of an affix refresh, that's what they said, for the level 7 bracket. Those affixes, if you're curious, include Quaking, Grievous, Volcanic, Storming, and Explosive, so we may see these affixes change quite dramatically, and some might even be removed or replaced. And then we will also see a new Dragon Riding Drake model being added into the mix, and if you were paying attention to data mining before the expansion was released, this one might look familiar. The model closely resembles a Cloud Serpent model skeleton, or the Heart of the Aspects mount, if you know what that looks like. It doesn't really look like any of the other available Dragon Riding mounts, so that's exciting that we're getting something fresh. I hope we also get a lot more Dragon Riding customization options to really spice things up, both with this new Dragon mount, but also with our other Dragon Riding Drakes as well. We will also have more dragon glyphs to collect in the new zone and 2 new dragon riding talents to unlock. Ground Skimming lets you regenerate vigor while flying low to the ground, even at low speed, and then the second trait just increases the rate at which you gain vigor while ground skimming, so you should be able to stay airborne for longer even if you aren't zooming through the skies. There's also new content for above ground too in the Dragon Isles, the Fyrek Assaults, so it's not just a new zone that everyone will move on over to and forget the rest of the Dragon Isles exists. The Dragon Isles will also have some new content to take part in. Fyrek is the fiery primal incarnate, so he will set certain areas on fire, a la Deathwing from the Cataclysm, and a bunch of primalist forces will spawn for us to deal with. The primalists also seem to be looking for something, so these aren't just random attacks. The assaults are currently elite world quests on the map, and they have you defend specific areas from assault, which eventually accumulates in a big boss battle where you take down one of Fyrek's lieutenants. There are also quests to complete, which give you another avenue for obtaining extra reputation and renown with the Dragonflight factions. The event itself rewards you with higher item level gear. I got a 408 piece of gear from the last boss, and then lower item level drops from the trash mobs too, but then we are also going to be earning Drake crests, which will be very important for upgrading your gear. More on this in just a moment. And then a very cool social change coming in 10.1 is the addition of cross-faction guilds. The dev team did say they would keep it under consideration and see what they could do to bring this into the game, and it doesn't seem to have taken them very long because cross-faction guilds will be included as part of patch 10.1, so that breaks down one of the last barriers for the Alliance and Horde playing together. We can group together, run dungeons together, complete raids together, be in communities and talk to each other, and now we will even be able to be in the same guilds together together, so faction is going to mean even less as we move forward in Dragonflight, and that's not necessarily a bad thing long term. I will finally be able to invite my Alliance alts into my guild and be able to keep up with any in-game stuff while playing those alts. Now, perhaps one of the largest updates coming in 10.1 that isn't included on the roadmap is a complete overhaul of how upgrading gear is going to work in patch 10.1. To start with, the Valor currency is being removed entirely. It's been chucked out the window, but in its place, we will see a new gearing and upgrading method that covers almost the entire breadth of the endgame of World of Warcraft. I'm going to summarize the changes here, but we will do a deep dive into how this system works in another video because I find it to be fascinating. To start with, we're going to have some new currencies. Flight stones are going to be our general currency, or kind of lower tier currency. They come from almost anywhere, and every upgrade will cost some flight stones, so whether you're looting treasures, killing rares, completing world quests, or doing dungeon runs and killing raid bosses, everyone will be earning flight stones at a steady pace, increasing with the difficulty of content you are clearing. And then we also have Shadow Flame crests. There are 4 types of crests: Whelpling, Drake, Worm, and Aspect. Different crests will drop depending on the difficulty of content you are clearing, so the higher you go, the better crests you will get, which will unlock higher upgrading opportunities. Each crest actually has right there on the tooltip what kind of item level brackets you can expect to upgrade your gear to with whichever crest you've managed to collect. So you can see that if you're able to get those higher tier of crests, you can massively increase the item level of your gear rewards, even if your gear didn't come from the highest tier of content. These crests will also have a weekly cap, so you can only earn 10 of each crest per week, but this cap is cumulative, so if you don't get all 10 crests in 1 week, you don't actually miss out on those crests because you can then earn up to 20 total in the second week, so the cap increases just like Valor or Conquest has in the past. Apparently these caps are also pretty high for what you can expect to actually be able to farm, so most players shouldn't run into too many issues. The way this all works is actually going to be very simple. Whenever you get a piece of gear from any source, you can upgrade it using these currencies. The higher you go, the more flight stones you're going to need, but you'll also start to use different crests. So if you upgrade an item to looking for raid equivalent item level, you start using Whelp crests. If you hit normal raid item level, you start using Drake crests. Getting past heroic item level will need Worm crests, and then getting up to mythic item level will need Aspect crests, and then you can't upgrade past that point. So if you get a piece of gear from the heroic raid, you can actually upgrade that to mythic item level pretty easily. If you get gear from the normal raid, you can upgrade that to way past its original item level, and even if you get gear from outdoor world content, you'll still be able to upgrade that gear as well. So whether it's mythic plus dungeon gear, outdoor world gear, or raid gear, you can use your flight stones and crests to upgrade your gear just like how Valor worked in previous seasons, except now it's for everything. Now there are some limits on how far an item can be upgraded, but every item that drops should be able to be upgraded a minimum of 4 times and a maximum of 7 times, so you'll need to earn higher item level gear eventually to continue your progression, but actually increasing your item level and gearing up throughout the patch should be much smoother, with a lot more choice about which items you can use and which ones to upgrade. On top of all of that, there's also a built-in catcher mechanic right from the get-go. If you have a high item level piece of gear in a slot, any upgrades below that item level you might want to do for that gear slot will cost half as many flight stones and no crests. So if you have an item level 430 weapon, but a weapon drops at 415 that you really want to upgrade, that weapon will actually be cheaper than normal to upgrade to let you catch it up super quickly. And the crazy part here, this also applies to alts. So if you have that 430 weapon on your main, any weapon upgrades on your alts below that item level will also be cheaper, making this one of the most alt-friendly gearing or upgrading systems we have ever seen in the game, period. So not only will you be able to swap gear around much easier on your main, but actually gearing up your alts will be way faster and easier too. But they're also tying in another area of gear upgrades into the system, crafted gear. In 10.1, the various crests will also be used by enchanters to create the new crafted gear item upgrade reagent for the new patch, so the equivalent to primal infusions. That's going to be an enchanter thing. You will be able to make crafting orders for these to use for yourself, but the crests are your main ingredient, so you can use crests to upgrade gear from all of the typical sources, but also to upgrade your crafted gear, so they're going to be even more important. On that note, all crafted gear from the current patch will also be brought forward and be upgradable with all this new stuff, so you won't be losing your elemental lariat anytime soon. So every kind of upgrade path is being rolled into one, and it will cover more areas of the game. It's a huge win for PvE gearing in general in my opinion, no matter what kind of content you personally enjoy. Now it is worth noting that this new upgrade path is not available for PvP. PvP will remain as it was in Season 1, with the Honor and Conquest currencies being used to upgrade the PvE item level of your PvP gear. So no changes for PvP going forward. That's the general gist of how this is going to work, but we will definitely dive deeper into this to make sure everyone understands exactly how it works and what changes might be made as the PTR for 10.1 unfolds. And then we can also expect to see heirloom armor upgrades so they work up to level 70. We will obviously see a bunch of class and balance tuning. There's already talk of another Shadow Priest rework happening, a new world boss for the new zone, as well as lots of other story content and quest lines for both the Zaralek Caverns and the Dragon Isles as a whole. So this patch definitely seems jam-packed with content. But the most exciting part about this whole thing is that we don't have to wait to see any of it in action. Patch 10.1 is already available to test on the public test realms. According to the Blue Post, the first build should have a lot to see and test too, which is kind of crazy when you consider that 10.07 hasn't even hit live servers yet. We have 2 PTRs running side by side, and this also kind of proves the dev team is committed to delivering everything in that updated roadmap that we previewed earlier. They're not even waiting until a patch goes live to start the next testing cycle, which is actually incredibly important for the major patches like 10.1 and 10.2 later in the year. These patches are going to be massive if the 10.1 preview is anything to go by, and of course we'll have a brand new raid, a new rotation of dungeons with different affixes, new tier sets, new zones, new factions and reps and gear and systems, and everything else you would expect from a major patch. But with more stuff being included, the patches are going to need more testing time. So getting 10.1 out as quickly as they can on the PTR realms will be paramount to keeping that steady pace of content flowing. So if you're interested in what it looks like right now, or you want to see how 10.1 is shaping up, be sure to pop on the PTR, see how everything is shaping up, give your feedback and report any bugs that you might come across. That's how these patches are really going to take shape. With so much content in the PTR already and new builds likely coming out on a weekly basis, expect to see a lot more videos from us in the coming weeks as patch 10.1 evolves on the PTR and we get some hands-on experience with the various additions being introduced. But that's all the updates I have for you for right now, so that's it for this video. What do you think about 10.1 PTR starting before 10.07 hits live servers? Do you think we're moving too quickly, or do you think 10.1 should arrive almost as quickly as possible? And what are you most excited about from the 10.1 reveal? The new gearing up path, the new rotation of dungeons, or an entire underground zone that we can dragon ride through? Leave all your thoughts in the comment section below. A big thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon and to all of our members here on YouTube. You can see the names floating by on screen. If you'd like to add your name to the end of every video with a special shout out at the start of the next video, you can find links in the description over to Patreon or click the join button just below this video. And if you want to see more videos like this, make sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you never miss another video. Thanks for watching folks, good luck and have fun, and as always I'll see you next time.